Hi guys, my name's Courtney and I'm here with Ashley and Emily, and today we're going to share with you our project part one for engineering ethics. All right, so here's a little bit about neural networks, just a very basic definition. A neural network is a series of algorithms that attempts to identify underlying relationships in a set of data by using a process that mimics the way the human brain operates. Again, that's just a very basic definition. There's a bunch of different ways that you can train the data. A few listed here are pattern recognition, image matching, prediction and forecasting, clustering, noise reduction, and classification. But the most common type is the multi-layer feed-forward network. So neural networks feature an activation function, which uses weighted inputs to produce some output, and sigmoid functions, which allow for nonlinear problem solving. And then the most important factors in the network are the weights, which kind of go around in the background. Training of the data results in selecting weights for the inputs that minimize the total errors. And the two types of training for neural networks are supervised and unsupervised.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over an example of a neural network that we're going to demonstrate in MATLAB. But first, I'll just give you a high-level overview of the example. So we're going to talk about the vineyard example data. So basically, chemical data was gathered on 13 attributes of wines from 3 different vineyards, and the goal is to run the data through the neural networks to determine the probability that a particular wine sample is from a certain vineyard. And this can just prevent people from passing counterfeit wines. So it does serve a purpose. They're really useful in a lot of different ways. So for this example, the user enters the gathered chemical characteristics and then runs it through the neural network. And then the neural network returns a probability of that wine sample being from each vineyard. Okay, so here's a quick walkthrough of how you would do this in MATLAB. You can pause this at any time if you want to see more in depth, but we're going to actually demonstrate this in MATLAB, so I'm just going to go through kind of quick. So you go into MATLAB and you go under the Apps tab and select, like what we're going to be using is a neural net pattern recognition. And then next, MATLAB will walk you through all the different steps. So first, you're going to select wine inputs and targets, and then you're going to load the example data set, which is vintage wine. And then next, we just use the default validation and testing percentages in MATLAB. You don't have to change that. And then the default for the number of hidden neurons is 10 in MATLAB, and we use that as well. And then on the bottom is just a visual diagram of what the neural network looks like. And then this whole picture just talks about how the data is trained inside the neural network. And then at the end, it comes up with a function, and then it gives you your answer. So here, the answer for this particular problem is there's a 35% chance that the wine is from Vineyard 1, 64% chance that it's from Vineyard 2, and 0% chance that it's from Vineyard 3.
So now for our live demonstration. Okay, so we've opened up MATLAB, and the way that we're going to do a neural network in MATLAB is through the apps. So MATLAB has a neural network pattern recognition app, and we're going to use this to do our example for the wine data. And we'll go ahead and click next. The first step in completing this example, you've got to load in some example data. We're using wine vintage. One of the great things about MATLAB is that it has a lot of different samples that you can walk through so that you can learn about a neural network before you try and tackle your own. So we'll go ahead and click import. And when I did that, you can see that the inputs are wine inputs, and this is in a 13 by 178 matrix. And so that's just basically saying that there are 178 samples of the 13 different chemical elements that are going into these wines. And then the target is what you're trying to say which vineyard the wines come from. So basically you're taking the 13 different elements, and this is where the training portion really comes in. It takes the 13 different elements, and the targets is which vineyard the wine comes from. And that's kind of how the neural network learns through this training process. So we'll go ahead and click next. And like I said before, the training process is a big portion of this. So 70% of the 70% of the 178 samples is going to go towards the training portion of the neural network. And then, as you can see, you can change the validation and testing percentages, but this is the default that MATLAB uses, and we found that this is the best for the neural network that we're working with. And also, 10 is the number of hidden neurons that we're going to go with. This is also the default that MATLAB uses, and we found that for this set of data, for the wine data example, that the 10 hidden neurons gives the least amount of error. So we'll go ahead and click next. And we're getting to the fun part where we're actually going to get to train the data here in a second. So we'll go ahead and click train. And as you can see, here is what MATLAB has done for the training the data. And we'll go ahead and click out of that so that we can see the function that it has come up with. So this, the next evaluate the network, you can train your data again, but our initial data usually shows to have a really good result. So we'll just bypass that. You can also perform additional tests with inputs and targets, but we don't have that for this sample. So we'll just go ahead and click next. And here's where you can choose what to do with the neural network that you've played with all along. And we're going to generate the MATLAB function. So I'll go ahead and click that button. And then it kind of exits you out of the app window and gets you back in here into the editor. And as you can see, here is what our neural network has become. And this is a lot of just code that was generated from the app that we just ran. But so the most important part of this whole neural network is being able to use the neural network function that the app has displayed for us. And the way that we're going to do that is assigning the x value in here to the 13 different values or inputs that our neural network takes. So these are the 13 different chemicals that compose the wine from each of the vineyards. So we'll go ahead and see what our network, how it works. So I'm just going to give these chemicals some random numbers to see what wine from what vineyard it comes up with. So we'll go with 12, 11, 14, 17, 85, 74, 63, 100, and right now we're not really seeing what these numbers really represent, but we know that they're the chemical components that make up these wines, and we just want to make sure we get 13 of them since that's what we trained our network with. So let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So I'll finish that off right there. And we're going to have to, when we run it, we're going to have to save it so that our network will actually run. So I'm just going to do project part 1. Okay. So MATLAB can sometimes be picky with names, but all right, so we're going to I named the MATLAB function wrong. You can't start it with a number. Thank you, Courtney. So we're just gonna, let me go in here and just get this number out of there and save it. Okay, so now it should work. Let's see what happens. So we just ran it and it popped up down here in the command window. Okay, so our answer right here is represented through these probabilities. So the probability of the given inputs being a wine that comes from Vineyard 1 is only a 1% chance. And then, as you can see, this wine definitely comes from Vineyard 2. It has a 98% chance of being a wine from that. And then, as you can see, the 0.0009, it's barely a chance that this wine comes from Vineyard 3. So as you can see, neural networks are really awesome, and it's a super powerful tool that is used so commonly probably in our everyday lives, and we just don't even know. Like when you go to a website and it suggests things for you to research, I mean, that's from learning and from your actions and on that website. Or when you have something like this, it's a very strong tool that you can use and that can be applied to almost any industry out there. And so it's really important that we walk through it and understand examples such as these. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in our comments section. And we've enjoyed presenting our neural network to you. And we hope that you've enjoyed listening to us and that you've been able to learn something about neural networks that you hadn't learned in the past. So thanks for watching, and check back with us for more videos.